First things first, unfortunately I picked up a little bit of a cold today, so my already fairly lispy presentation is going to be even more nasal than usual, so apologies in advance if that comes through. Second, massive shout out to my man Regan, who sent me a request today from New Zealand. Not only did he send me a request, he also sent me a donation. He sent me a few quid via PayPal, and I've been doing this now for about 18 months. The YouTube ad revenue hasn't kicked in yet. I still haven't got any withdrawals from Google Ads, and Reagan's the third person in 18 months to send me a donation, so very much gratefully received, my friend, and thank you very much indeed for that. Massive shout out to you. Now, with regards to his request, he wanted me to talk briefly and to check out Australian welterweight prospect Jeff Horn. The name Jeff Horn is a name I've heard about. He's someone who I've seen mentioned on boxing forums. I've seen him on BoxRec. He's not someone I deeply looked into, so I've looked into him today. 27-year-old welterweight prospect, competed in World Amateur Championships, went to the Olympics in 2012, had a few wins in the Olympics, and has now turned pro. I think he's 9-0 with one draw, and the draw came as a sort of technical draw due to his opponent sustaining a cut when Jeff was ahead in the fight. So you can pretty much say that he's an unbeaten fighter. He's definitely an unbeaten fighter, in fact. And he's going in aggressive direction. Now, what I'd say is, for a guy who's got 9 wins on his record, some of the statements attributed to this bloke are absolutely remarkable. So I saw an interview with his manager on Boxing News 24, where they're saying they want the Amir Khan fight. In a similar interview, they're saying that they sparred with Anthony Mundine, and Jeff had to lay off Anthony Mundine in sparring because he was giving him a bit of a pasting. I've seen other threads on other forums saying that the guy fancies his arm at Mayweather Pacquiao. Let's not forget, this is a guy with 9 wins on his resume, so we're talking big talk here. Now, the guy's known as a power puncher. I think of his 9 wins, 7 of them come by knockout, so he can clearly crack a little bit. And if you do a basic YouTube search, you can see various footage of him knocking people out. And when I say knocking people out, I mean, leaving them on the ground unconscious. We're not talking necessarily here about stopping guys on their feet and having the referee waving it off. We're talking about knocking guys spark out, which is always good. But what he has, which I really like to see in a fighter, is despite the fact he's run through a few opponents and he's shown that decent power, he's also shown the ability to go the distance. So he went 12 rounds in his, I think it was his penultimate fight. So I like that in a fighter, Jeff Horn, we know in going forward in big fights, he's got the power to make a difference. We also know he's, if he needs to, he can go late in a fight. His stamina's going to hold up. He's got that experience under his belt. In terms of the level of opposition he's been in with, it's not world class. You're not seeing the kind of Leonard Bundus, Devin Alexanders, Robert Guerreros. You're not seeing those kind of welterweight gatekeepery names on his CV. But for a guy with 9 fights, the level of opponent isn't actually bad. I won't list them one by one, but anyone can go on BoxRec and look them up. But it's not terrible. There are a lot of fighters with 9 fights who have fought a hell of a lot worse opponents than Jeff Horn. Now, I'm not going to lie and say that I've seen every one of his fights. I've done a bit of looking into him, following on from the request I received today. And there will be people out there who are more educated on this guy than I am. But my initial thoughts are as follows. Clearly got a good amateur background. You don't go to the Olympics and win fights without that sort of amateur structure to your game. My one criticism is that I don't feel, in what I've seen, he uses his jab enough. The guy's got a very nice jab, I haven't sat through his 12-round fight and watched every round of that. I've watched a few of the other fights that have gone to knockout, and I do not feel that he jabs his way in enough. He is a come-forward, aggressive guy who likes to sort of cut down the ring on an opponent. And for me, his natural inclination is to throw power shots. He will often lead with a straight backhand punch. So he's an orthodox fighter, so instead of throwing a left jab, he'll often lead with the right cross. Throws power punches, throws combinations of power punches, goes to the body, which again is something that I very much like. You know, in less experienced fighters and the pros, when someone's going to the body, it's always a good sign. Now, from what I've seen, Jeff Horn has a good jab. You know, when it lands, it's a very, very nice shot. It can snap the opponent's head back. It's accurate. You know, he's got an accurate jab. I think it's got a bit of sting in it. It can be a force. And I think as he steps up in the level of opposition, I think it's really, really key he uses the jab. Yeah, this is a guy, I understand he fights on a lot of Joseph Parker undercards. He should look at Joseph Parker. Early on in his career, Joseph Parker was getting cut against lesser fighters. He was getting into scraps with lesser fighters. He was taking punishment from lesser fighters. More recently, we've seen more composed, disciplined, refined, technical boxing performances from Joseph Parker. And I feel the same, Jeff Horn will benefit from the same in the long run, because we know he can punch the body, we know he's got power, we know he can throw nice combinations. But at the elite level, coming forward without a jab is going to leave yourself open. So that's the only criticism I have of this guy. I'd like to see him throw the jab a bit more. But I think defensively, he's fairly smart. You know, there's a few highlight reel reflexes and head movements. You know, he obviously fancies himself as a bit of a Roy Jones, kind of ducking under punches, stepping back, you know, using his reflexes and powers of evasion, which I certainly like to see. And, you know, the punch variety's there. He's a guy, he likes to fight at close range. You know, as I say, there are people out there who will have seen more of him than I have. So if you're one of those people, comment below if I'm wrong, and I'll accept the feedback. But from what I've seen of him, his inclination is to fight at mid-short range. He isn't a guy who likes to operate necessarily behind a long 1-2. He's more a sort of come-forward guy who will fight at mid-range and then come in close. So at mid-range, he's typically working the body, throwing the hooks to the head. When he gets in close, he's, you know, keen on the uppercut, keen on the short hook. And that's where his variety comes through. And there is a bit of punch variety there. You know, he's got relatively fast hands. He's got, as I say, quite a bit of punch variety, which is always good to see. In terms of the movement, I'm not seeing at this stage advanced lateral movement. I'm seeing more, you know, following an opponent round the ring, trying to cut them down that way. Having said that, he hasn't necessarily fought a level of opposition where he's need to be on the back foot, dancing around. What I'm getting at is if he fought a Devon Alexander, like a classic sort of welterweight, top 15 guy if you want. I think Devon is a schooled, smart guy, and I think Jeff Horn's going to need to do more than just come forward and throw looping punches. I'd like to see him use a bit more range, use a bit more side-to-side lateral movement, throw a bit more of a jab, and, you know, box to sort of disciplined orders against like a sort of Devon Alexander. Yeah, I know he's not an elite, scary puncher, but you don't necessarily want to be relying on ducking and diving. You want to be relying on, you know, movement, getting in and out of range, that sort of thing. But I mean, I like what I see so far. He's an exciting guy. He comes to fight. You know, he clearly carries a bit of weight behind his work, and as I say, he's already proven stamina over the trip. So, yeah, lot to like about the guy. Exciting fighter. He's got another fight in the diary for June, I believe. So, someone to keep a track of. And I don't think it's long, you know, he's obviously got a lot of support behind him, he's been talked up. I don't think it's long before this guy does break into the world scene. And when I say the world scene, I mean it's not long till he crops up against a Bundu. It's not long till he crops up against a Devon Alexander, maybe even a Robert Guerrero, someone of that ilk. There's a lot of interest in the boxing scene at present in Australia and New Zealand. You've got Joseph Parker, you've got Jeff Horn, you've got Lucas Brown, Anthony Mundine, and there's other names I could mention as well. So exciting times in general. Jeff Horn's an exciting prospect. Let me know your thoughts, and thanks again, Reagan, for your support.